Playing on a Budget is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the best Magic the Gathering singles and sealed retailer on the internet, GatheringMagic.com, your #1 source for Magic the Gathering news and content, and RogueDeckBuilder.com, my personal channel filled with innovative and entertaining Magic the Gathering rogue brews. Hi there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com with this week's episode of Playing on a Budget. Last week we showcased a mono red deck that was very hyper aggressive, and I was actually surprised to see in the comment section that people were actually facing up against other red decks quite frequently. I guess that would be expected with Theo Larson winning the Pro Tour Magic Origins with a hyper aggressive red deck. This is a deck that does very well against the Pro Tour winning deck at Magic Origins. Now there was actually a few 7-3 finishes at Magic Origins, the Pro Tour, with this particular deck. This is a green-white Constellation. And then there was a Grand Prix San Diego, just shy of a top 8 finish. I think he finished 9th with this particular list, or a list similar to this list, with the green-white Constellation or enchantments, whatever you want to call it. So, anywho, before we get over the complete deck list, we're going to go over the prices brought to you by our sponsors, CoolStuffInc.com. And this particular list will run you at $88.60. Now, if you do have a green-white fetch land to throw into the mix, that would put you still under the $100 budget. But I thought I'd play it as is. And if you do have 4 of the fetch lands, go ahead and throw them in, because the fetch lands are great in this format, especially just 2 colors to help you fix. You can, if they're just a strict upgrade like a forest or a plains, they'll thin out the deck. They're really good with Courser of Kruphix. Maybe I'll add one in as time progresses, because that will still put us under that $100 budget. I'll add one in just to show you how well they work, but we won't play the full 4 play set. But other than that, this deck is basically Courser of Kruphix at 5. The command just shy of 5, and the only expensive card in this entire deck is going to be the Starfield of Nyx. If you can even think that $7 is expensive, which I don't think is expensive coming from playing a lot of Modern lately, $7 for a card is nothing. I mean, we have cards like Terminate in Modern approaching the $4 mark. So, anywho, everything else is under $3. So we'll go back over to the deck tech. So what this tries to do is it tries to draw a lot of card advantage through Eidolon of Blossoms. The Courser of Kruphix will also help you hit more lands off the top of your library to draw into more fuel later on. And you have card advantage through Kruphix's Insight as well. Your stabilization is going to be done through the Nyx-Fleece Ram. So you have main-boarded Nyx-Fleece Rams. Red deck win strategies really have a tough time with this card. And then also the Herald of the Pantheon, which whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain a life, and enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less, and as well as Courser of Kruphix gaining new life whenever you play a land. So I actually thought about putting in a Johnny's Pride Mate in here just for fun, but it probably isn't really as good in this deck because it doesn't work with your finisher. I mean, I guess the Johnny's Pride Mate technically could be your finishers. You would have main-boarded Blossoming Sands, could easily play Radiant Fountain as well to gain some life, and it would get quite big quite fast. So if I thought about that in another card called Sunbond, but I think you switch up the deck too much and don't rely as much on the Sigil of the Empty Thrones as a finisher, which is going to be the finisher this and the Starfield of Nyx. So Sigil of the Empty Throne, whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you get a 4 for White Angel token, and the Starfield of Nyx, you get a return an enchantment back from your graveyard to the battlefield. This particular 6 cards is and between that and Eidolon of Blossoms is what really pushes this over the edge against the Sultai Control type deck lists. I'm not quite sure how it pairs up against like the Sphinx's Tutelage type deck list, but I'm thinking that we'll do very well against traditional control-based decks because it's just too much card advantage for them to keep up with. It's going to be those mid-range decks. It's going to be the green-red Monsters or the green-red Devotion decks that are probably going to be a little bit too tough for this deck to handle. And so on the 2 extreme end of the spectrums, being slow control decks and super hyper fast aggressive aggro decks, I think that this deck pretty much covers those type of things. Again, it will be those mid-range that I think are going to give us the issue. So as far as the control is concerned in this deck, we do have a very good control package. We have Silkwrap, which takes care of anything mana cost 3 or less, which is a ton of cards in the format right now. This is Goblin Rabble Masters. This is Goblin Pile Drivers. It will also take care of Seeker of the Ways. and Monastery Mentors and Swift Spares. It will also get rid of the Mantis Riders. There is just a lot of cards that the Silkwrap does a great job of taking care of. And we also have Banishing Light, which can take care of Planeswalkers. And it can actually take care of Sphinx's Tutelage. So keep that in mind. We also have a command which can take care of the Sphinx's Tutelage. It can also have one of our creatures fight another creatures or prevent all damage against their sorcery spell deal this turn. There's plenty of direct damage in like Exquisite Firecraft, even though that can't be countered. I don't think it has a preventive clause. So anyway, onto the sideboard. Unravel the AEther is going to be a whopping 4 of in this deck. It is very good against the Darksteel Citadel and Soul Artifact draw. So they think that they have you really on the that's the best draw. First turn Darksteel Citadel, second turn in Soul Artifact on the Darksteel Citadel. Then you can start attacking in with a 5/5 Indestructible. They put it on an Ornithopter every now and again. They put it on a Springleaf Drum every now and again. And Unravel the AEther is perfect because you make them shuffle it back in their library and you get a 2-for-1 them, or what this is called is the 2-mana Stone Rain against the Darksteel Citadel. Indestructible does nothing against shuffling into your library. Boon Satyr comes in against the control matchups. It gives you a 4/2 flash, which is very good against any sort of control because you can keep your mana up on your turn, flash this in. They have to decide whether counterspell, and then you can land something if they decide to counterspell the Boon Satyr. And the Boon Satyr is a very quick clock if they do not answer it. Suspension Field is just one more way to deal with now the creatures with toughness 3 or greater, so it gets rid of opposing Courser of Kruphixes. This will also get rid of Siege Rhino and Tassiger. And then we have one more command in the sideboard for the enchantment base deck. So we actually have a great package against other enchantment decks through Unravel the AEther and the command. And Tormod's Crypts will come in versus anything that utilizes the graveyard. So like Sultai Control or any sort of reanimation or whip strategy, we do have the Tormod's Crypts. So all in all, I think this deck, I know it would take it out of budget, but might actually benefit quite a lot from adding in black for a few of the, I mean, if you get black, you have the access to like Whip of Erebos and Doomwake Giant. I'm not quite sure. I haven't piloted this deck enough to see if that's necessary. But for budget reasons, for sure, we're going to stick to just 2 colors. So we do have room for that one fetch land in here, if I can think of the name. Sorry about this. It's just having one of those moments that I can't remember the green-white fetch land. All right. There it is, the Windswept Heath. So we'll go ahead and add one of these and take out a Plains. And maybe we'll get to see the power of the Heath. I mean, if you have multiple Courser of Kruphixes out, this actually pay 1 life is gaining you life, not losing you life. So for budget reasons, hell, we'll go a little bit over the budget today, and we'll actually run another one in here just to showcase this. But this deck will work fine without the Windswept Heath. So they're definitely optional. They're not going to be too critical for the strategy. So again, I'm hoping to see a mid-range deck, a control deck, and a hyper-aggressive deck, and really get to showcase how this deck works. We'll go ahead and queue this up in an 8-man queue and some 2-man queues and see how it does. This has been Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching Playing on a Budget. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Gathering Magic and check out our Playing on a Budget playlist, which contains every episode. Thanks again, and hope to see you soon.